numbers and comparisons in about 2 seconds. Hey, Rick.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Consumer Price Index for the month of June. We're expecting a headline number to be in the neighborhood of up 0.3, but I'm going to be paying most attention to the core at up 0.4, our last look, and I'll tell you why in a moment as we wait for these numbers to populate. And here we go. If you look at the headline, up 0.2%, up 0.2%. And that, of course, comps to the up 0.1 in the rearview mirror. It's a 0.1 lighter than expectations. Now, CPI core ex food and energy up 0.2, up 0.2. And that means it's not the fourth consecutive month up 0.4. And it also means it's not the seventh month in a row of 0.4 or higher. And that was a record going all the way back. The last time we had something along those lines was from October of 89 to April of 90, where it was 9 in a row. So we stopped that as well. And up 0.2 on the core is the lowest level going all the way back to February of 21, when it was only up 0.1. And if we look at year over year, up 3%. 4% in the rearview mirror. Well, 4% in the rearview mirror was the lowest level since March of 21. So when you see 3%, you have to go all the way back to March of 21 again, because that's where the comp drops from down to 2.6 is what we're comping to. And in the rearview mirror, 4%. And here's another one. If you look at ex food and energy, last month was up 5.3. That was the lowest level since Nova of 2021. We breached 5% to 4.8, and that remains at the lowest level since October of 21, when it was 4.6. We could see that interest rates have fallen about 3 basis points in tens from 393 to 390. We see that the pre-opening equity markets have rocketed higher. Dow futures up basically 200. And of course, we are going to monitor if there's any changes in Fed fund futures. I don't think so. At 10 o'clock Eastern, look for Bank of Canada to go 1/4 point to 5%. Dollar index prior to this number, of course, was at a 2-month low. My guess is it's not rallying at this point. And we're all going to pay attention to the UAW. You know, wages are a big issue, as we learned last Friday, and UAW and strikes and minimum wages across the country. All of those things may be good for many people, but there's very little doubt that they also fuel some wage inflation. We need to pay very close attention to that. Joe, all yours.
So no change in, so Bookvar was on. He said they're going in July no matter what. No change in that probability?
Okay, so basically, I'm going to pause CNBC right now because this is big. So as you can see on the screen, CPI year over year is only 3%. 3%. Now, we came off of a 4% in May. That's a major drop. The main reason we saw this drop is because of the comparable month that we're dealing with. Don't forget that every single month, we have to compare it to the previous year's same month. So this June is going head-to-head to 2022 June, which was 9.1%. So that was the worst month ever, right? 9.1%. Now, the cliff is so high that dropping from 4 to 3% is basically because we're going head-to-head with a 9% month last year in June. So that's the reason why you see the steep decline. It doesn't necessarily mean that inflation is dying down as fast as this would indicate. It just means that June 2022 was so bad that this normal June of 2023 is going to give us 3% inflation. Now, there's big implications to what just happened on the stock market. Massive. I want you to listen carefully. The last 2 times, Jerome Powell, the chair of the Fed, was asked about interest rates for the rest of 2023. The last 2 times he was asked about this, he was categorically saying, without any doubt, that there will be 100% interest rate increases before the end of 2023. Now, for the 2 times that he said it, nobody believed him. The market ignored it. The market basically called this a bluff. Now, just last week, when the employment numbers came out, everything all of a sudden changed. Employment numbers were hotter than expected, which basically means that the economy is doing way better than expected. It's too hot. And all of a sudden, there were cracks in the Jerome Powell is bluffing theory. And then you saw a few red days because the market started pricing in the option, in fact, the probable option, right, that Jerome Powell will indeed increase rates before the end of this year to cool down this market. But now, with what just happened today, it's a whole different ballgame. Now, the whole theory that was predicated on Jerome Powell basically bluffing is becoming way more probable than before. With 3% inflation, the US economy is now 1% away from its target. We started off with 9% exactly a year ago. We're currently at 3%, and our target is 2%. We're literally 1% away. Is there a reason for the central bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve, to increase rates in this scenario? Well, realistically, not so much. Because according to the gold standard of setting interest rates to battle inflation, which is the Taylor rule, the Taylor rule specifically states that the way to calculate how much interest rate you need is very, very simple. You calculate how much inflation you have, which is 3%. You deduct from that the good inflation, the acceptable inflation, which is 2%, and you get 1%. You multiply that by 2, you get 2%. So according to the Taylor rule, just roughly speaking, we're okay with 2 to 3% interest rate to battle 3% inflation. We are currently at 5.25 federal funds rate. We're way higher than where we should be given the fact that we're at 3% inflation. Is there a central bank in the world with a right mind and sound mind that would increase rates in this scenario? Probably not. And that basically punches a massive hole in what Powell and his compadres were trying to do. For the past few weeks, Powell has been trying to intimidate the market into submission by saying we're going to increase rates. He was speaking it into existence, scaring the market, causing people to spend less, causing businesses to fire more people, and basically slowing down the economy by scaring it. Like a bouncer scares people in front of the club. Nobody fights the bouncer because he's big and menacing. Nobody fights it. Nobody wants to test the bouncer. So the idea was Powell was to scare the market. The market is going to drop down, and then there would no need would be for the interest rate hikes. I don't think at any stage the Federal Reserve had any serious intentions of actually raising rates in 2023. Maybe they still will. That would be very stupid if they will, but maybe they still will. But we've said this on our Patreon community many times, patreon.com/Tom Nash. On our Zoom calls, our members below in the comments, if you're a Patreon member, comment below, tell them what I'm saying is right. I've been saying 100 times in our Zoom calls for the past few weeks, Powell is 100% full of shit. He's not going to raise rates in 2023. There's no need for that. And the threat worked, especially with how the employment numbers came out, but it worked to an extent. Now, it's absolutely redundant. With 3% inflation, with 5% interest, the market is going to slowly tumble down into a complete halt, and there would be no need for more interest rate hikes. This has massive implications on the stock market for the remainder of the year. Now, this means that from this point on, whatever chance of Powell raising rates that was still priced in, baked into the market, will now have to be eaten up by the market. So this would mean, maybe not today, maybe not next week, from this point on till the end of this year, because of that 3% number that we just saw right now, the market will have to price that in. So this is a very bullish sign for the market for the next few months. This means that the market, to an extent, will have a much more longer bullish cycle than what people initially gave it credit for. Obviously, we've seen a lot of hype from AI. This is another log in that fire. Adding a 3% inflation into this hype cycle basically means that there's more gasoline in the tank for this rally, for this bullish cycle. How long it continues, I don't know. It actually will not be linear. Obviously, nobody thinks it's going to go up, shooting up in a straight line. There will be red days and red times for sure. But what just happened today, that 3% is a very important sign. It basically is that positive catalyst that people were waiting for on the macro level to support all this hype from the AI side and the growth side. Now, this is the beginning, I believe, of a very bullish cycle for the market for the next few weeks, few months. Obviously, it's going to be up and down, but in general, the direction would be positive. I think that Powell raising rates at this point would be hella stupid. Of course, they might do it. They're the Fed, and they've done stupid stuff before. But I would hope not at this point, because now it just seems that the best thing is for them to just keep it at 5% until inflation comes down to 2%, and then slowly start it, probably dropping it not to zero, but, closer to 2 or 3%, which is where it should be. Now, if you enjoy this macro breakdown and you want to join our community, patreon.com/Tom Nash. It's on the screen right now below my beautiful face. You can join. It's a $5 membership for the general membership. We also have Tom's Academy, a brand new thing I just launched for people to learn how to model, how to evaluate companies, how to become a better long-term investor, how to DCA into good companies over the long term. And of course, on Patreon, we'll do a lot more of these macroeconomic breakdowns. And we have an amazing Discord when you can chat with our community and talk about these things in real time. Would love to see you there. We just crossed 5,000 members, which is an incredible milestone. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. I'll see you in the next video.